For more on this story, we can turn to American University of Kabul professor Samina Ansari. Thank you for speaking with us here on France 24.
Thank you so much for having me. I am from the American University of Afghanistan. I'm pleased to be with you tonight.
American University of Afghanistan. Thank you for spelling that out for us. First of all, before I ask you about the meeting itself, what's been the mood like in the capital?
As you said, the peace process with Taliban started a while ago, but then officially in October last year, led by Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad. And since then, a set of roundtable discussions have been set up with Taliban in Doha. And the mood basically started from the round of these discussions where Afghan government and Afghan people have been feeling and are very excluded from these discussions. So right now with the Grand Assembly, Loya Jirga, taking place in Kabul, people are feeling very curious about what this Loya Jirga is going to bring to them and how this Loya Jirga is going to affect the peace process itself. President Ashraf Ghani has promised that this Loya Jirga will basically set forward the red lines towards the peace process and also set the agenda for how this peace process is going to develop from the Afghan side.
But then the question begs, how much is he privy to the talks between the U.S. and the Taliban? How much control does he have over the process?
I guess the Loya Jirga taking place so rushly actually illustrate how much Ashraf Ghani is feeling frustration over the fact that he has been so excluded. So in one way, this is his attempt to sort of control the situation and bring Afghans together to also show that he has support from the Afghan people and that he still has power over Afghan people in terms of setting the agenda. And also bringing actors from all over the country, from all 34 provinces, is actually not an easy thing to do, especially in such an uncertain time. But it is worthy to mention that today has been a very tense day for people of Kabul. The city has been locked down, the roads were blocked, and also people that are running small businesses, they felt that they couldn't run their everyday lives because they were so uncertain about what this Loya Jirga would bring in terms of insecurities, but also in terms of protection, because Taliban have expressed that they're very much against this Loya Jirga taking place right now.
They're against it, and how do you explain the fact that you've got the absence of Abdullah, the rival and number two of President Ghani?
Well, Abdullah expressed that he was not consulted in the process of this Loya Jirga. And also Abdullah expressed that he didn't necessarily believe that this Loya Jirga would necessarily bring forward concrete measurements, outcomes in terms of how this peace process is to proceed. So we don't really know a lot more on what is actually behind this decision other than this.
What's your feeling as far as what can be obtained during these 4 days?
It is very, very difficult to say because today was the first day. And some of the reactions that I hear is that people wish that this didn't take place because this will just slow down the peace process itself, and that this is something symbolic, that Ashraf Ghani is basically doing this in order to gain support for the interim period and also during the Afghan elections. But I've also heard voices both from young people and other people in Kabul expressing hope for the fact that this Loya Jirga might bring some sort of consensus, but also this Loya Jirga serves as a platform for people to actually express their voice, something that the Afghan people have been complaining about throughout this entire peace process, saying that they don't have a voice in what is happening in terms of the future of their country and what kind of peace agreement that will come forward out of these roundtable discussions.
So the discussions potentially run three ways, right? You've got the Loya Jirga that you have on right now in Kabul. You have the talks between the U.S. and the Taliban. And then there's those U.S. efforts to get Afghans to speak amongst themselves, including with the Taliban. A recent effort failed. What are your thoughts on whether or not there can be talks?
Well, I believe so far the discussion has been with Zalmay Khalilzad basically bringing forward American interests because he is an American ambassador and he does represent someone that is initially bringing forward a framework with Taliban on the withdrawal of American troops, but also a promise from Taliban on abolishing all networks with different terrorist groups in Afghanistan. So this has been the framework so far. And then there was an attempt for Afghan people to attend talks with Taliban towards end of April, just a week ago, where 250 participants were going to go to Doha and sit and meet with Taliban. But Taliban rejected the entire list. So it has been very, very challenging to bring forward all these different actors to the table to initially discuss the way forward.
What's your personal feeling? Can a deal be reached whereby the Taliban agree not to return to the kind of rule that they had before 2001?
A lot of the language is that Taliban are not the same Taliban as Taliban from 1995 and 1996. But I guess the frustration from the Afghan side, where I am currently based, is that Afghans also want to show Taliban that they're not the same Afghans as 95 and 96, especially the youth that I work with on daily basis. They're very frustrated over the fact that they believe that a negotiation can happen on their cost and also that a peace would come forward which is outside their control. Because initially, all Afghans, and especially Afghan youth, would like to have ownership over this peace agreement and this peace process itself, not only the agreement that comes out of these talks. So I feel also that that's very frustrating to have actors outside this territory basically making decisions on a framework that would initially lead to the process that would have the outcome of an agreement.
Samina Ansari, it's also an election year in Afghanistan. What's your feeling? Is that good news or bad that there's elections coming up?
Well, at the moment, there's a lot of uncertainty, and people, I don't think we need to focus on having a system in place that would potentially take more lives and create more uncertainty. I do believe that elections are important, and I do believe that we need to continue our democratic processes. But at the same time, I also believe that it's important to focus more on resolving one issue at the time. And right now, the way that I see the issue is that we need to include meaningful participation of both Afghans and Taliban on the other side to basically sit and discuss their differences before a formal peace process is to take place.
Samina Ansari of the American University of Afghanistan, many thanks for speaking with us here on France 24.